All right. Well, let's get into the prospects. So we're going to break them down positionally. We're going to start with the forwards, everybody's favourite position. So first one on the list is Jack Hutchinson.
Yeah, one name who I think's probably been one of the earlier discussed so far this season. Didn't take him too long to, I guess, by the sounds of it, be on the radar of a few AFL clubs. First time I saw him, I think it was a practice game for Collingwood's VFL side against Richmond. A lot of high grabs, kicked a few goals early at Punt Road, and really lively and just a big presence for someone who has only just joined the Magpies reserves list this year, came from Wonthaggi. And then once the VFL season got underway, looked pretty at ease as well, spearheading their forward line. So I think he had 9 goals in his first 5 games. Decent highlight reel as well, just giving his high leaping ability. A few big hangers.
Gets a lot of attention.
In the VFL. Yeah, absolutely. And so listed as a key forward, but probably a bit of a medium, more of a medium forward, not quite that mid 190s to 2 meters, probably on the low end of, I think, 190 centimeters. So he's probably not the tallest, but obviously his leaping ability kind of helps him play a bit taller. But if they have a club that wants a key forward and someone who can really, I guess, move straight into that, and maybe probably number 2 spot, he's not going to be taking over any number 1 first string key forwards role. But he's probably more of a third tall forward, or would be a good third tall forward option. Yep. So we talk about North Melbourne having pick 1. Would they look at him? There's a couple other names on this list that they might look at instead, just because they probably want someone a bit taller, similar to Nick Larkey, and because they've already got a Zane Dersma, who's 190, 192 centimetres or around that mark, and then a couple others that can play a bit taller, like your Paul Curtis, Eddie Ford, Cameron Zerha. So you'd think that while he's a chance, they might go for someone a bit taller if it was North. And that kind of leaves clubs like Richmond, Hawthorn, St Kilda, Adelaide, Carlton, clubs that might look at getting some key forward depth in at the mid-season draft. And those clubs have some of the earlier selections.
Yep. All right. Next one on the list, Jasper Scaife.
So out of the waffle with West Perth, had a really strong start with them playing at the senior level. I think it was draft year was only 2022, so he's overlooked, gone back to the waffle last year, and then he's really been able to grow and then become a key piece for the Falcons early into this year. So 8 goals in, I think, 3 games for West.
That's good output
for West Perth. I think that was across the early start to the season. So 197 centimeters, like what we said about Hutchinson. Scaife's probably a bit taller, might be a better fit for North. I don't think they want to really meddle with the medium-sized options. So, North Melbourne, certainly a great chance with pick 1. Obviously, they can move up back to pick 2 if they manage to win against Port Adelaide this weekend. Unlikely, so you'd assume that they have that first selection, and Scaife's probably one of a few that they'd look at. But if not, then Richmond, another team that would love a key forward. Hawthorn, probably another one that would look at key position depth, and Scaife could fall in their lap as both a list need and the best available, even by pick 3 or 4 or 5 or whenever the Hawthorn end up selecting. And then St Kilda probably another one. So similar to those clubs that we had for Hutchinson as well, a couple of clubs that will potentially look at key forwards, and Scaife's going to be a pretty good one. Just a bit of a bigger frame, plenty of upside, obviously, and he's a bit younger. He's only 19. Hutchinson's 22, and so a bit more raw, but like I said, a lot of upside from Jasper Scaife.
Yep. Next one from South Adelaide is Noah House.
Yeah, so similar to Scaife, pretty young. Like he only missed out on the draft last year, so he's 18. Kind of like what we said about Marek and Cully, is these are just kids who got overlooked. Might not have been on, really a strong chance for the national draft last year, but then they've another preseason. And House is playing in a senior sample side that isn't doing all that well, but he's still managing to have a pretty decent impact. So he's 196 centimetres, 9 goals from 6 games for the Panthers, but he kicked 3 against Adelaide's sample side, so there's some AFL level talent that he's up against there. And then same with Glenelg, who are the reigning premiers and still one of the better sample sides. So he's doing it against some pretty good talent for an 18-year-old. Good leap on him. Yeah, again, bit taller than Hutchinson, another probably they're the 3 key forwards that I think would be above the rest at the moment, between Howes, Scaife and Hutchinson, and each offer something a little bit different. So there'll be something to consider for any club that would be keen on key forwards. And again, it's kind of similar to the clubs that we've mentioned so far. So North Melbourne, Richmond, Hawthorn, St Kilda, Adelaide, Carlton.
Yeah.
He'd be a good chance after a pretty promising year. Not only just to start this year, but obviously at the under 18s level last year, part of South Adelaide's premiership side. So has certainly had the stage to show what he's worth, and he's taken it to new levels this year at the state league level.
Yep. Will McLachlan leading the Talent League for goals.
Yeah, he's again a bit like a few that we've seen the last few years that have stayed in the Talent League as an overage campaign, and that's usually a big benefit to kids like these that get another crack right under the eyes of AFL scouts, because that's going to be the competition where they're really looked at the most. And Geelong Falcons have had a promising start, and there's a few that are going to be on this list, but McLachlan, as you mentioned, 20 goals in 5 games already this year as a medium-sized forward, so bit smaller than the others that we've named, and but he's still good aerially, good ground level, so that balance that you certainly want. So might make it a few other clubs that might be interested, like West Coast isn't one we've named so far. Certainly could look at key forwards, but I don't think they would want to. But more of a smaller to medium-sized option is in McLachlan. So West Coast could be considered, St Kilda, the Dogs, Carlton, Essendon could look at that kind of option as well. He's pretty promising. I would say it'd be a pretty good chance of getting picked up. And again, just 19. So one of those kids that just got overlooked. And would be a great chance of getting that opportunity through the mid-season draft.
Yep. Next fella, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Patrick Weckert.
Yeah, Weckert. I think so. Weckert. Yeah. One of those dual coded athletes, really good at cricket. I think he was at the state league level for cricket for South Australia, and equally as strong, obviously, for football. The Woodville West Torrens, who are having a pretty good year also in the SANFL.
A lot of talent out of there.
Yeah, no, we've got a few on this list as well for sure. And yes, he's 19, so only just missed the draft in the last year or so, and then 194 centimeters, 9 goals in 6 games for one of the better SANFL sides is a pretty good output. And they've got some pretty big names, Woodville, both ex-AFL and kind of just real stalwarts in the SANFL. And he's been very, very strong, particularly to start this season. So one to watch. Again, 194 centimeters, probably not in the level of the other 3 talls that we mentioned, but certainly could be looked at for sure. Yep.
Oskar Smartt over from the Essendon VFL team.
Yeah, so getting into a small forward now. Was among the group that got the Young Guns call-up. I think McLachlan was in that as well, and there's a few others that we'll mention, but usually that's a good indicator of a few AFL clubs wanting to see this overage talent go up against Vic Metro and Vic Country trialists. So I think he booted a few goals, might have been 5 across 2 games, I'm trying to remember, but good pressure forward as well. I think 4.5 tackles per game. In the Talent League last year for Bendigo. He had booted 4 goals against Footscray earlier this year for Essendon's VFL, and Footscray are undefeated at the moment and looking pretty formidable at that level. And again, one that just missed out last year. So 18-year-old, really young, sprightly. So Essendon could be one that, given he's right under their nose, and he'd be one of the leading VFL options this year. And the Western Bulldogs are another one who could look at a small forward, and given their pick in that mid-range, that he certainly could be an option for them as well.
Yep. A question without notice, but if they're playing for the VFL team or associated, does that give them any advantage to get drafted to?
No, it doesn't. And you see that a fair bit. I think in the last few mid-season drafts, there's been guys who are performing really well at one VFL affiliate club. Like look at Jordan Boyd, was at Footscray, got picked up from Carlton, and he's one of the real success stories. But you do get a lot, and I think Hawthorn are the big one in recruiting from their own. The way that they've managed to grab talent out of Box Hill has worked really well for them with the likes of John Newcomb, James Blank, and a few others. So no advantage really. But you do obviously get a good idea of not only the player, but the person and the character.
Yeah, the relationship. All right, so another one, a Toby Murray out from the Adelaide SANFL team.
Yes, he was a pretty the big signing for them came over from, I think, the Murray Bushrangers. I think it might have been his second year or third year after his draft campaign. So younger brother of Crows defender Nick. So there's a bit of a link there when they brought him and Tyler Welsh over. So obviously Tyler Welsh is the father-son prospect for them this year for the national draft, and they signed them both at the same time. Pretty big announcement that they made of it. Obviously Welsh was a big one, but Murray is a dual signing and been pretty promising. Like I said, he's still pretty young and raw, kind of tall forward option, but I think a big bonus for him is he's holding down a role and playing a lot of football in a senior sample side, and then B, he can certainly pinch it in the ruck as well. So Adelaide will probably potentially consider him. Certainly could be gone before their pick. They are early enough though if they do want to go for Murray. And one thing they'd have to consider is the role that he'd play, if they want that second ruck option that can play forward. They have got that in Riley Thorpe, but certainly no harm in getting someone like Murray through. But maybe they might hold off until their second or third pick. And then worst case, he just stays in their sample system if he doesn't get picked up at all, and they can still keep close tabs on him. So Adelaide's certainly one. You look at clubs that might want ruck forwards, Carlton maybe, St Kilda maybe. So there's a few there for Murray, who's, like I said, promising. Not numbers that'll blow off the page, but there's certainly an option, and Adelaide is certainly a chance.
Yep. So we had Toby Murray, and now we've got Tobyn Murray.
Yeah, this could stump a few. So there's a couple here, and it's only really one letter difference. So hopefully no club accidentally drafts the wrong bloke, because unlike Toby Murray, who's more of a tall forward, Tobyn Murray is more of an agile, pacey half forward. And has been pretty impressive for Geelong's VFL team. So from the Falcons, links up with the Cats' VFL program. He's played 3 games this year, kicked 6 goals in his first 2 matches, and 1 really, really good goal from the boundary as well. So another one that featured for the Young Guns, did his stocks no harm, but another one that could be looking for if clubs are looking for a bit of half forward craft. And Geelong, do they need that given their stocks at the moment? Probably not, but he could be a chance as that local product, and he certainly has some good glimpses of talent, and the Cats will know exactly what they like in him, and if he's worth a pick given how well their list management team works. Yep. But again, similar to maybe an Oskar Smartt, to Carlton, Essendon, Western Bulldogs, the clubs that might be after some small forwards or half forward threats. Could be a chance there.
Yep. And last one out of the forwards, so Jed Hagan.
Yeah, I guess more of a utility option, but has proven to be a good attacking threat so far this year in a return to East Fremantle. So he was at Port Adelaide's sample side last year, and then the year before that he was at East Fremantle for his draft year. Probably one of the more unlucky prospects not to get picked up. And when I say utility, I'm talking I think I was likening him to Liam Baker in his draft year. So can play across halfback, right through the middle, and that nuggety half forward role as well. But very hard nosed, gritty, determined player. Very much that Liam Baker that I think a few clubs would love to have. Started this season with the Sharks really well. As I said, played in Port's sample side last year as a player straight that, it's 18, 19, so he's still only 19. Do Richmond look at him having potentially losing Baker this off-season? Adelaide, St Kilda, Melbourne, Freo, these are some of the clubs that could do with a jack of all trades type player. So there's certainly an option there, and he featured for WA in the recent state game over the weekend. Not a huge output, but just goes to show probably where his games are to earn that selection as 19-year-old.
Yep.